remember that we went over. I think it was right. Yeah, literally your Reinhardt on Basan. I think.
Yep.
Interesting that you're playing Brawl here. Is there particular so like how was like your hero pool expanded or like how what's your hero pool now generally? How much time do you spend playing Brawl? And how do you split that between Reinhardt? Do you play more than Brawl and Ryan? Like give me a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn different heroes. Like I know how to play Monkey because I have played competitively. So I needed like to in Overwatch 1 to play like the main tanks. So I
Right.
know how to play Monkey, so I'm pretty comfortable with the hero. And like I was just trying to like expand my hero pool. And I play a lot more ball. Like pretty much every time there's a dive map or like not a map especially for Reinhardt, I play ball.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I try to learn the hero. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said here that your teammates said that you played badly.
Yeah. At the end of the game, like my I think Tracer said I have really poor team play, and I was a bit surprised because I really thought I was playing around my team. I
Right.
think I
Right.
was trying to at least. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out because what generally happens, even in team play as well, is your dives will be desynced. I mean, this happens. It's been historical since the start of Overwatch, and teams still do it now, where you'll slam in, and then I don't know your Tracer, your Freya especially nowadays, like they'll just mistime their swings, and then it's not necessarily your fault. I mean, sometimes it can be because sometimes you can, I don't know, maybe your Freya or your Trace is looking to go in, and then you're not ready to be there because you're not set up. Maybe you go in too early as well when you know your Tracer can't go in. Things like that. So we'll talk about awareness and timing and making sure you're on the same page as your teammates as much as you can. The nice thing about timing is that it's generally fairly easy to fix because you just look at your teammates through the wall and you can determine how you know whether they're going to go in or not essentially. Whether they're actually going to be doing stuff. So we'll see a bit of that. What generally more broadly do you think your job on ball here is against their comp? Like, what things are you looking to do?
Maybe like act like a fat tracer on the back line, like just disturb them and roll over them, maybe.
Right, yeah. That's part of it. So again, because they're running, I mean, this is you obviously first fight. You don't know exactly what they're running, but because they're
Yeah.
on Juno Honor, they are fairly susceptible to that. Like you can go on isolated targets. Your dives will be generally a little bit better. Micro wise, it's really important you try and avoid getting slept by Honor. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but essentially it just means playing cover, soft engaging a lot of the time, making sure that when you're going in, Honor doesn't really see you. Doing all kinds of tech like wall climb micro, I'd say wall climb micro, but bouncing off of walls or using walls. Whenever I coach Hazard, is again it's a big part where Hazard players will have to use their wall to avoid sleep darts and their wall climb as well. So it's a similar case on ball. And seeing how many times you get slept. Now I know obviously the groggy perk isn't as bad as it was, but it just really hampers your cycles because if you get slept and you're 1 HP, well you can't go in for the next 10, 15 seconds, and then who knows, maybe your Tracer's the one complaining about that. So we'll see how that pans out. What else in against that comp as well?
Hmm. I'd say maybe mark the tracer so she can dive my backline,
Right, so
maybe.
that's part of it. So like, there's not necessarily marked in this context because is your backline like are your backline going to be a big threat from their dive? Really, generally speaking,
What do you say?
do you think your backline's going to be at threat or danger from their dive?
Oh, yeah, I think the mercy is gonna be like vulnerable, maybe.
What might your mercy do?
No, she's gonna stay with the
Right,
Freyas.
yeah, the Freya
Yeah.
and probably the. I mean, I don't know if this person swaps the
The Echo.
Tracer, right? But maybe that person swaps the Tracer. But the point here being is, of course, Mercy Lucio is probably one of the worst backlines in the game. But one of the benefits of playing the comp or the backline is that they're very slippery. They're very mobile. She can fly away to again Freya. She'll be up in the air. Yusa can war it away. It's not necessarily for the benefit of your Mercy. If you're playing Zen here, then I would say it is, and that actually changes a lot because you'll be essentially marking and forcing out these characters on the flanks here to
Mm.
prevent your gen from being dove. But I don't really see that as a big issue in this sort of context based on again how slippery your backline is. More generally, though, it is good to mark out Tracer and Soldier here. Mainly because you actually have that slipperiness and you have that mobility to go and force them out. So maybe you plus a Tracer, you could 2v1 their Tracer. You could, again, I sometimes coach teams this when with Doomfist as well. But sometimes you can 2v1 the Tracer before the Winston can even do anything. So again, maybe you see Tracers on a flank, you 2v1, and then Winston can't really do much because he's just a bit too slow to jump onto you. So that's a nice benefit too. And of course, you can do the exact same thing onto the Soldier here as well. You can 2v1 the Soldier with your Tracer or with your Echo. So we'll see how that pans out here. Of course, there's a lot of like macro stuff there. A lot of that won't be applicable because it is, I assume this is, again, it's the rank setting. So you're gonna have limited communication. But I guess the key thing here to note is looking at what your DPS are doing and playing to what they want to do. If you see your Tracer dueling, maybe you can help out your Tracer. If you see your Tracer set up and you're pushing the bots, then maybe again looking at when your Tracer's gonna go in, looking at how your Tracer or your Echo or whoever can reach their backline is really important. So that's how the general sort of setup for playing with your team. So we'll see how that all pans out, and of course we'll look at your ball micro too. But yeah, okay. Alright. Okay. Yeah, so of course you don't know what they're running here, so I'll be more lenient here.
Yeah.
On a Winston. Sure. The soft engage. Okay, I'd say that, right? So the roll through here is good. My only concern is, you tell me, actually. Alright, so you roll through here. Where should you move to and why?
To the wall in front of me, maybe to use cover and maybe zone the backline.
Right, so that's there's two things there, right? That's a very interesting statement because the second of what you said is correct in terms of, again, you want to be able to zone the backline here safely, and actually use cover here as well. Would it be easier to play the cover here, where you can LOS up the Ana, or play and duck over here? Which one do you think is easier to get to?
The top one, maybe,
Why do you say the top one?
because I can. It's in the lane. Like I'm heading towards this wall, but
Yeah.
I'm not doing shit here.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? So very simply, you're closer to this corner than you are to here.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's going to be easier to avoid sleep dart by going here, just because you have to travel less distance. So naturally, again, I will just roll through here. The roll through is perfectly fine. I will just go through here because it's just shorter, and you just avoid. There's less time for Arlen to sleep you. And actually, if I go to her POV, she obviously misses it here, but she can actually still see you for a brief period of time. And actually, had she moved to the left side, she can see you even more. So I don't know why she moves to the right here, but as you can see, if she moves to the left, she can just see your hitbox more. So that's kind of the main thing there, is that she just misses the sleep dot here. Of course, you roll through and you don't pile drive, which is good at least. But yeah, at least, again, this would be the second best option, moving to this wall here. Again, you can still pressure out the Soldier. You prevent the Ana from walking up, right, because you just hold the space, which is nice. But I say the best option here is, again, trying to roll through here. And you can still zone the Ana had you played like this kind of spot over here. You can just enter your crap form, start shooting the Juno, start shooting the Ana, and then once again you hear Sleep Dart being used, then you can go for a hard engage and pole drive the Ana. That would have been quite nice. But yeah, no major complaints so far. Just stuff with micro in terms of where you're moving to as ball. But yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Nice. That's Tracer's goes whatever. Yeah, no big complaints there. I like the pole. The only thing I would say is doing that a little bit earlier because you got to low HP, and then maybe some adaptive shields could have been a little bit earlier too. But barring that, like, I'm very happy with that. Ana Sleep Dot got used. You're free to pole drive. Soldier was fairly isolated. You got the Tracer kill by proxy, so that's whatever. But the pole driver was still good regardless. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that cycle so far. Okay, monkey in a bubble, nice. Okay, sure. Okay. So unfortunately, your team just gets eviscerated by the Soldier here. We'll see if you could have done anything else, because what I'm seeing here is like relatively okay. I think it's to do with the uptime of how long you're in the fight when you power drive here. Because when you power drive, you're 775 right now. Right, you get down to 420 when you power drive. So half your HP is gone, you tank helix too, and now you pop your shields when you're 100 HP. So again, shielding earlier there would have been quite nice, and then you could have actually played the Mega, I think, around about here. Yeah, you could have played the Mega here, trying to play the cover, zone the social for a bit longer. So the only thing here is just uptime on this angle. That's literally just it. So I guess the question here becomes, why didn't you pop your shields a bit earlier?
I don't know. I didn't feel I was in danger enough. When I thought I was like midlife, yeah.
Right, so this is a really important concept. It's something that Tracer, Genji players, DPS players in general on flankers need to get used to, which is part of it is object permanence. In other words, keeping in mind and being aware of what's around you. So right now, even though Ana and Juno are not on your screen, you know that they're still behind you. They can still see you by you going here anyways. So that's object permanence. The second thing linked onto that is visual aggro. In other words, how many people are looking at you, and does that essentially require you to pop cooldowns, or you to move out of danger, or you to do something essentially. So a good example, would be like if you're playing Genji into Cassidy, very simply, and the Cassidy's looking at you, that is a high amount of visual aggro. If Cassidy's looking at you as Genji, you either need to deflect or you need to move away, and de-peek the Cassidy entirely. On Bull, it's a bit different with the visual aggro. So here, when you power drive, right, so you can see one username over there, and so you're commonly going into social. So right now, you're not taking much visual aggro. This person is not looking at you. You can see his eyes; they're not turned towards you. So not shield. So you can't. I don't mind you not shielding this. That's fine. So far, we're okay. It's only around about here where now you're taking soldier aggro, and now you're taking Juno aggro. Ana can still see you here too. Now is when, okay, I'm 500. I've lost 200 HP. I'm taking a good amount of visual aggro. Soldier can see me. I've got 3 people to shield with. Now it's your time to shield. So again, it's linked to visual aggro about how much your character's taking. Otherwise, and this is also why you'll see Tracers die with recall. This is why you'll see Maze die with cryo freeze. This is why you'll see Bulls die without using adaptive shields. Because again, you're not paying attention to the aggro around you. So good that we went over this at least. And I think especially here right now, I'm not sure. You're locked out of your animation here because you're in power drive animation. But especially right now, like when Tracer's here as well. Of course, she's not looking at you right now. But especially considering your half HP, and then you've got again multiple targets looking at you. And then this is when I'd be looking to pop shields. But yeah, it's a bit, again, you're not paying attention to the aggro you're taking. Okay. Alright. Just see here. And again, that looks very different, right? Because again, had you done that, you would have been able to zone the soldier here. Of course, you get the trace kill here, right? But this is the point of zoning, is that you can stay here for a long period of time and make the soldier look at you, not your team. And had you done that, then the kills that the soldier gets here don't exist, or they don't go through. Okay. So main thing is uptime, which is linked onto your adaptive shields, which is linked onto your visual aggro, and then some other stuff too about the micro with where you're rolling as Bull and your pathing. So that fight there was mainly micro. I've got no complaints there with what you did and why you did it. But yeah. Okay. Let's see here again, actually. Okay, so your team's lost this fight, right? So your team's lost this fight. What should you be doing now?
Disengaging, maybe like going in their backline to grab earth packs and find a good setup for the next dive.
Right, exactly. Right, so like you are one of the most, if not arguably the most mobile character in the game. They will not chase you. Right, you can take your time. You've got all the time in the world to stage a setup. Right, you don't need to be doing this. And again, you're what, 130 HP? Yeah, you're 130 HP. A helix and a bullet kills you. Like, this is not worth doing this. So you're very lucky here, essentially, that I don't think you shouldn't die for this, hopefully. And the Mega comes back in time as well. There we go, and your shields too. Like, this is just too risky. Get out! Get out! Oh my god. Don't die for this, you're gonna die for this, aren't you? There you are, right? Which obviously, not ideal, not great.
Yeah.
Mercy's not gonna get that res, she knows. Really unfortunate. And again, that can cause a... So why did you actually... I'm actually very curious. Why did you go on the soldier here? And commit?
I wanted to take the packs, but it was locked.
Right.
So I was just stuck here. The time the packs like unlocks.
Yeah, I find that...
I wanted...
Yeah, go on.
I wanted to like take the nearest packs, the nearest pack, and like that was just how can I say it? Um, unconscious. Like
Right,
I
right.
didn't think of that.
Yeah. I think next time, like when you realize that the fight's lost, like, well, ask yourself. I mean, there's two things here, right? Like, firstly, actually, yeah, we can change the situation slightly, right? So, when is going onto the soldier? When is doing this kind of play? When does it make sense?
In mid fight, like in engage.
Yeah. I'm talking to the about generally about the end of a fight, right? So your team's
Ah,
dead, right? What circumstances when your team's dead should it be fine to go on soldier? So maybe if we back it up here a little bit, right? Run about here, right? And you go on soldier here, right? When would it be fine to go on soldier? Is soldier killable
in,
right now?
if I'm full life and is isolated.
Right, yeah, yeah, right. If this guy's killable in some kind of way, and that's one factor. If you're full HP and this guy's isolated, that's a HP advantage in your favor, right? Because you're full HP, and a positional advantage in your favor. So therefore, you can commit onto the soldier, right? You can even do the opposite way around here as well, right? Where maybe the soldier's low HP, maybe he's only got 1 bar of HP, and then a roll through will kill him, and then that would be fine, right? Then doing this makes sense. In other words, getting traits. This is what we call getting traits. So this is again that will be fine here. So I want to make that clear in that there are situations where doing this actually makes sense. You just haven't got the triggers in terms of your own HP, in terms of the soldier HP, in terms of what the soldier's playing. There's just no trigger for you to do this. So yeah, if there's no triggers, get out, play to live, set up for the next fight. But yeah, okay. We'll see here. Yeah. Okay. Pulling out fine. Okay, sure. Okay. Fine. Okay. Okay, I wish a little bit more before I say anything. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So there's a lot more went on there. So we'll start off slow with your first sort of cycle, which I honestly think was completely reasonable. Again, it would have been more ideal had you been, set up behind the enemy team, right? So maybe before last fight, you could have maybe set up here. You could have maybe set up over here. Here's probably the best one to have, just because you can see more on the enemy team here as well. And again, it makes you less predictable. Whereas again, you're getting marked out by Tracer. Again, your pathing's very predictable. I've got no real complaints about this. Your team's relatively close. They should be able to swing the corner when you go in here. And again, you've got a clear retreat path with a Mega over here. So I've got no complaints. I'm okay with this. It's normally right about afterwards is where we get into some issues. And no need to short death, so I'm also happy with that too. Could have been a bit quicker on the Mega here, right? So maybe next time, on this map specifically, you path it onto the Mega, so you immediately go here, just to reduce your downtime, because right now you're just rolling about, doing not much. But again, I'm nitpicking, there's nothing crazy about this so far. Here, why do you think it's fine to pole drive this?
I don't know if the Anna has sleep or not, so I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, right. And I don't think I didn't realize that's not realize, sorry, but I don't think she used sleep dart when you were doing this engagement here. Actually, I don't think you're using sleep dart here at all. So going a pole driver here is A, kind of suicidal, and B, even if you live, which you do live, your uptime is going to be nil. You're not going to be doing anything. It's going to be very similar to first fight where you pole driver and then you immediately roll out. And the second that happens, their soldier, their trace is going to be able to do a lot more. And then your team's not going to be able to do much here, sadly. So we'll see, like, micro-wise, what else you could have done. I mean, there's two things to this, right? We'll say, there's two questions here to ask, right? Do you need to go in here? Do you think going in now is a good idea?
Wow, my team is really far.
Yeah, your team's fairly far, right? Conversely as well, are their team right now, are they set up, are they staged for a good dive, the enemy team?
I would say yes. They like if the tracer can just blink and the monkey can just like jump. So I think it's
Okay, so they've got distance for that's a good trigger, right? They've got distance to go in. Have they got
yeah.
many angles though?
No.
No, right? I actually don't think this dive by the enemy team looks that scary. I don't actually think you need to be going in here. And if anything, if you're the enemy team here, let's say your blue team for a second, what would you want to do here if you're blue team and you see a ball to the right side?
Turn around and mark like make him go or kill him.
Right, yeah, just force him out, right? Force the ball out, and then guess what? Once he's forced out,
Yeah.
fine, we can just go in afterwards, and then we've got no concerns about our ball going in here. So your backline's they're really far away. They're not really doing much. They're not prepared to swing this corner very safely. So your timing here is early for that reason. But also, these guys just aren't that dangerous. They're not really doing much, right? Trace is not taking it. If Trace was right here, immediately go on Tracer, right? Again, you can force her out. That's fine. You haven't even necessarily got to force her out again, like I mentioned beforehand, because she's not that dangerous anyways because of your comp, right? But the point here being is that you can actually that's a trigger to go in here essentially. But right now there's no trigger. I don't see why you would want to go in here. It's not like an honor threat that you need to be worried about, right? It's not like a Winston's jumping in and then you need to like slam in so the honor looks at you so she can't get a good nade in your backline. It's not like that. There's nothing
Yeah.
like that that's occurring right now. So I think your timing here is a little bit early or preemptive. And again, if I was the enemy team here, I'm just going to force you out and go in afterwards because you're going in a bit early. So again, a little bit more awareness between cycles here. So this is a piece of advice that I give not just ball players, but dive characters in general, where you have a cycle. So again, here for you was like rolling in, right? And then you have another cycle. Right? So maybe here again, it's either rolling, or in this case, slamming in. We'll talk about the slam in a moment. Between these cycles here, this is when you can look at your team. Right? Look around. Think about when you should go in. And right now, again, for those reasons, I think it's a little bit preemptive, a little bit early. I actually wouldn't even mind you to soft engage this necessarily here as well, because they are like you do want to disrupt their staging here. I'm not saying to not do anything here. So how would you soft engage this without slamming in? Where might you want to roll to?
Hmm. Uh, on Diana, like I just did, but like to force the sleep, maybe.
Yeah, that micro might be hard to do because it's an enclosed space. So again, rolling, you might get bumped on the corner, or it might be really tough, right? The micro becomes harder essentially. Where where else can you maybe soft engage? Think less so about the honor, more so about disrupting their front line.
Uh, Roll to the monkey and hide in the room.
Right, right. So we can roll here. We can boop the soldier, disrupt them. We get to use this as cover. We can roll through the monkey and the tracer, and then get to use this as cover as well. And guess what? Once we're here, now we've got a nice setup to go into the honor. We can also roll through back here if you want to, right? We set ourselves up for the next dive. So you're essentially, and nice way to think about this, you're ping-ponging between these two areas. Here as well if you wanted, from when you were.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you could have done that essentially here. And I think we can keep it top down. And had you done that, right? Like, now look at this, right? Had you done that, you're not gonna get slept here. And look at your HP, completely destroyed, right? Completely gone. And then had you done that, so you roll through here, you don't get forced out like you are right now. You keep this angle really nicely. Your team's out walking, and now when your team walks, guess what? Now you can actually go in, right? Now you can actually go in again, which would have been quite nice. You could even, I think it's probably too far to go on Soldier, to be fair. But he's isolated here as well, so I don't mind if you want to reach for him. But the point here being is that now that you've done your soft engage, now you can actually, go in with when your team's walking, which would have been quite nice. But yeah. Okay. To put it short there, because we went over a lot, we'll go over to your POV here again in a moment here. Just look at how you deal with the tracer. To put it short, look at what your team's doing. Think about triggers for hard engages. So again, the main mistake here was again a slamming, for a sleep dart. Thinking about like your pathing for soft engages, and again, this should all increase your uptime. Increase uptime. To sort of summarize that section. And again, the pathing aspect should be again just basically where you can use cover and then set up easily. And again, as I mentioned, again you got the cart as cover and here as cover as well. Okay, we'll go back to your POV now and see how you do with the tracer. Oh, wrong button. Let's go over here. Okay, go. Okay. Okay. Okay, and now you can see, right? Now that you've been forced out, now the enemy team are starting to go in. Visor's been used. You're 200 HP. You can't do anything about the soldier now. Because you almost blew your cooldowns too early. And now Monkey's going in too. Yeah, I mean, I would expect your team to lose this fight based on how it looks right now. You'll lose your dice there. Yeah, they get cap. You're low HP. Yeah, there we go. And actually, if you look at, I think what's an interesting thing to look at here as well is, obviously we see your POV here. What are your team doing on this wing? And not much. Yeah, not much. Not much on the swing. Because you just get forced out so early. Like by the time your team are like swinging, you're rolling out. And again, I think this is why your tracer or whoever it was said at the end of the game, you know, your mistiming or your team play's not that good. I think this might be the reason why. Is again you're seeing people and you kind of get scared to go in early. You get baited to go in early, and then this is it, right? Where your team's walking forward, but you're walking out, and this is it. But yeah. Okay. All right. See, next fight. Again. What's the other mistake here made again? You lost the fights. What should you do?
Set up in their backline.
Yeah, right, again. It's a very easy fix. It's a very easy thing to do. It's probably when we do this at the end, it's probably gonna be one of the key points towards the end. Because it's just so easy to do. Yeah, it costs nothing. It basically requires no thinking. It's just free. It's free value. Like, there's no reason to not do it. Instead, you roll back to your team here, which is unfortunate. Okay, we'll see. Sure. Fine, nice. And look, notice that was a soft engage, right? It was a form of a soft engage where you rolled in the tracer, you forced her out, shot her a little bit, and you played cover, right? This is great, right? What's on my screen right now? This is what I wanted to see last fights. Where you're soft engaging, using cover, forcing out of the front line. This is great stuff. Yay. Sure. Not exactly how I would have gone about forcing out the tracer. I would have just, honestly, I would have just moved here and then shot her with my gun. A bit simpler, requires less mechanics. But this is fine as well. Sure. Okay. And that's part of the reason why. There's also a more damning point, so that's the micro in terms of just shooting the tracer from distance, right? There's also 2 more points onto that, which is, can your team help you right now? Where's your team?
Down main.
Yeah, they're down over here, right? Can your team help you right now? Can they not even help you necessarily, but can they follow up off of what you're doing right now?
No, they
Not
don't
really.
have lines.
No, right? Your cast isn't, like, they're not engaged. Well, first of all, they're not engaging, but that's not really a concern here. Your cast and Freya are doing nothing. Your Freya isn't swinging wide. Your cast isn't swinging wide. Your mouse is not doing anything. Your cast isn't looking for a high noon play through here. Neither is your Freya too. Like, there's no bite to this engagement. Had your team been swinging, again, I think the best swing to do here is probably swinging like this, with like your cast and your Freya swing like this. Had they been doing this, this looks a lot more reasonable. But yeah, like this, again, you're almost committing too much onto the tracer here, is the unfortunate point. And again, you're going in a little bit too early. You're very tunneled onto the tracer. And the second point linked onto that is, this is an idea that I always tell players, or I talk to players about, which is playing spaces that are aggressive but safe. In other words, if you're dueling Tracer, you want to duel her in such a way that if she wants to go onto you and engage onto you, she's gonna have to put herself at risk. And that's kind of a vague-ish concept here. But this is why I wanted you to just shoot her from here or from here. Because had you done that, the only way we'll walk through this step by step. If you're here shooting Tracer, what is the only way the Tracer can reach you?
If she blinks to me, and
Exactly.
she has line of sight with my team, so they can shoot her.
Exactly, right? If you stand here and shoot her, the only way she can sort of go onto you is by doing this sort of blink path here, right? But if she does that, she's putting herself at risk from your Cassidy. And this is the point where you're actually doing what she wants. She's almost baiting you into her again. You're playing a position that, if you want to force up the Tracer here, you have to put yourself at danger, and you have to put yourself out of your team's LOS. You have to put yourself actually in their team's LOS here, because you're peeking their soldier. So this is the kind of the key point here. Again, it's why using cover here was very promising, because the only way Tracer could go onto you is by putting herself at risk. So this is a really, really key idea. That's again really important at top level play. In my videos I call this risk baiting. But yeah, that would have been quite nice to see it from a micro's perspective. And then once your team start pushing up, then you can commit a bit more onto the Tracer. Then you can do like roll onto her, force her out a little bit more. Then that's fine. But notice how again you're almost going before your team can even help you here, which is the main mistake. And honestly, I think if you're playing with like a Sombra or a Tracer, I actually think this playstyle is a little bit more effective, because just your Tracer or your Sombra can actually help you here had you been playing with one. But again, because you're playing double hit scan, it becomes a little bit more harder for you to keep up or to match the tempo of your team. They've been unfortunate at that. And again, just like last fights, you're getting forced out here before anything even happens. Like now the monkey goes in with Nano Boost. I would love to see you zone 3 people here. I would love to see that, but you're too busy right now getting forced out by a Tracer to be able to do that. So yeah, a bit unfortunate there. So the way this fight should have gone here is you basically stand here, you trace a little bit. If they decide to nano engage, then you can roll in, you can swing in, and then zone 3 people away. Of course, that sounds easy. It's a bit easier than done there, right? Of course, you need to make sure you don't get slept, make sure you outplay the sleep dart, right? And effectively zone these 3 people for a long period of time. But again, I think that's, it should be again easy to picture that, at least from a macro perspective. Then again, just dueling a Tracer and getting forced out because you start to duel her in her team space. But yeah. Okay. I'm surprised she actually the Tracer just leaves you alone there. Okay, timing there's a bit better. Do you know whether Honor's got sleep dart or not?
No, I don't. I don't have the info.
You don't have the info, right?
I think I went in and I was hoping she had used it earlier in the fights, but it's really bad.
Okay, yeah, she did actually use it on your Freya, thankfully. I don't know how to tell with sleep dart if I'm ghosting it Honor. But yeah, again, had you actually a sleep dart here, I mean you die here regardless, right? But again, had she had sleep dart for you, you would have been dead here. Regardless of your minds, So we'll talk about Micro here in a moment. Right now. Okay. So, what's the issue with how could you improve this engage? We'll start off there. Go back a little bit.
I don't think I had pile drive. That would have been maybe better.
Why would you want a pile drive if Arna's got sleep dart? Right, so look at your pathing, right? So you start off here. Of course, you're low HP, but again, we've talked about that. Dueling Tracer. I don't really care about you being low HP necessarily. Where do you finish your movement? When do you start shooting Yana? Why is shooting Yana here an issue? Have you got much cover to use?
No.
No.
Not
right.
at all.
So if we go back to your POV, where should you finish your roll?
Behind the sign behind me or to the stairs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right basically now. Around here, right? So again, I think you stopped your fireball here. So again, micro-wise, I think you jump over the Gunner, which again slows down your fireball a little bit. I'm not quite sure. But again, a little bit more. It's a little bit longer here, and you'll be able to dodge sleep dart more effectively by juking around here, using this as cover. Right? It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But again, it is something that again is important to raise, considering again Anna did not sleep dart you here, and that she should have actually done that. Of course, had you had a little bit more time, your pathing here could have been nicer as well. So you could have actually gone through here, and you could even, I wouldn't even mind you pile driving from here if Anna doesn't know that you're behind her, because you can catch her off guard. But yeah, I think again the main issue here is again where you're finishing your roll through, which is an open space. And it's unfortunate too, because again you haven't got the trigger to hard engage Honor, right? Of course, the sleep dot's the main trigger that you haven't got, right? But you're low HP as well, you know. You're just sort of face tanking into an Honor when you're low HP, and you can't live that. And again, your uptime is again for the third time in a row, it's very low, right? Because the third time that we've seen you've engaged and you're kind of doing nothing. Yeah, you either forced out really early or you die right there. So again, third time that we've seen that. So a bit unfortunate. Again, I think it comes down to a little bit of dominoes effect, so to say, because again, I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that you were wasting a lot of time for trying to duel a Tracer here. When again, I think all you needed to do was just shoot her from this angle. Like, just shoot her a little bit from here. That's really it. You can even ignore her if you wanted to. So you can even go through here and set up your own staging. Again, like I mentioned beforehand, because you're playing into Juno Honor, then who's a very squishy backline, you're the only character in the comp that you're playing right now that can actually punish a Juno Honor. So I'd actually even say you can even ignore the Tracer here and then again go on to the Juno Honor. Because again, they're very squishy. And you can sort of make use of that. But yeah. Okay. We'll see next fight here. Okay. We'll watch one more fight here, and then we'll go over to the Rein VOD as well. I think there's a pretty established pattern of behavior in these fights. Again, with uptime and you're essentially engaging a little bit too early, and also you're hard engaging when you shouldn't. So there's consistent themes here throughout. We'll watch one more fight, and then we'll go to the Rein VODs. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Right, this is a lot better, right? So I'm probably a little bit nitpicky by doing this, right? If I go back here a little bit. Right, first off, I don't know why you take the longer route. Just go through here instead. Yep. It's just shorter, right? It's just shorter to go through. That's the first nitpick there. The second one is, I don't know why you'd go into Honor instead of Juno, when Juno is more killable and less dangerous than Honor, because of course you can get slapped by Honor. And obviously, Juno's split off from her Honor too. So, I think, again, I prefer you to go into Juno. Again, Honor here as well. Like, you've got a distance from the Honor here. So, it's harder. Or not really harder, sorry. But it's more telegraphed, I'd just say, for the Honor to be able to sleep dart you here. There's all kind of small things, essentially, that make it a little bit harder to go into the Honor. But nothing, again, just nitpicking here. This is better. Cover use of shit. This is what I wanted to see again from the last fight. This is better. Okay, sure. Nice. Sure. Nice. Sure. Okay. Sure. Nice. A decent micro there, right? I actually kind of like that you went off the map there a little bit, where you can still recover your pole driver. I think it's maybe a little bit risky, but I'm fairly okay with it. There's not really much cover here to use anyways. And again, you're zoning the Honor off well, so I've got no real complaints. Yeah, pretty decent there. Okay. We'll see here. A little bit slow there to catch up to your team. Pole driver's fine, no Honor. There's a Tracer, fine. Can tank that, nice. This monkey out, good. Sure. Okay. Okay. Fine. A little bit micro there with the recovery pole driver to catch him, but okay, there's a small micro things there. Nothing crazy. Okay. Also the monkey. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. So what's the not issue, but it's what word? Is opportunity cost a good word here? Let me think. This is fine so far. Fine, pause the monkey, right? Okay, so you've got a choice here, right? You either go into Tracer or you go into their soldier. Which one should you go into and why? In other words, do you think it's right to go on Tracer here?
I don't know if she's a real threat to my team because they are 4 and she doesn't have bomb, so I should just let the Tracer to my team and like to my Cassidy because
Yeah,
he will
right.
be able to
So I mean, it's not like a big, it's not really a mistake here. It's just a small opportunity cost thing where you're really the only person on your team that can zone away Soldier or zone away their backline effectively. Again, you're not running a Genji, you're not who can juggle aggro with you. You're not running a Tracer who's really good into Juno on our backlines. So yeah, I've got no really. Again, I would prefer you to go on Soldier here, but again, it's not like a massive mistake. I think going Tracer is fairly reasonable. Also, as well, their backline, most of them have de-peaked. Like, they're leaving right now. So it's only a Soldier that needs to be cleaned up here. So, again, it's a small thing, but I'm bringing it up to show the dichotomy or what can change in terms of when you might want to go on Soldier or when you might want to go on Tracer instead. I think Tracer is actually a bit more dangerous because of her angle, so I think it's fine to filter out here. Yeah, I've got no. I just wanted to bring that up there in case again situations can change. But yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. 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 Sure. Sure. Nice forcing out there. Okay. This is a really important thing when playing against dive comps. So I sort of mentioned this. I think I've mentioned this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this to you before in Rein. I think maybe. But again, it's the spar framework, which is scouts.
Yep.
Yeah, prevent, absorb, rotate. What you're doing there is actually a really good example of the prevent stuff, right? Where you're like preventing the Winston can't go in with that bubble. So that's a really good example of prevention there. And especially when you're playing against a comp like this, doing anything you can do to prevent these guys from getting good angles is really important. So we'll see how that pans out here. Okay. Okay. Roll. Fine. Okay. Okay. Let's roll. Okay. Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is actually really nice. I mean, there's just one major thing, which is the fact that Soldier is visoring right now, and I've got no idea where he is. And that comes down to scouting, because I don't see the Soldier here. There was also some micro parts as well, in the fact that you could have forced out Tracer there, but you're a little bit too focused on getting the Mega, even though you're 600 HP. Again, it's more important to prioritize the Tracer there. No real major complaints, and I like how you booped the Tracer once. I probably would have kept chasing the Tracer, so I would have kept tracing her, and force her out, because that's the main prevention of your comp, right? Again, it's to prevent Tracer Winston from going in. So I would have liked you to keep chasing Tracer here, and shoot her down and force recall. But I think the fact that you go onto the backline here is really, really important. So, in other words, in prevent, in this comp here, you'll be, again, shooting the Winston or Tracer, and then in the absorb stage, you'll be zoning their backline, which is exactly what you do. So I've got no real complaints. The only, again, caveat is Soldier's on an insane flank right now, that you just couldn't have scouted or couldn't have known. So yeah. Okay, but this is great, and you can see how you see how I mentioned this first fight, right? This is great, right? Again, you're soft engaging, using cover here, pretty good, right? This is good, and now you can look for a pile driver if you wanted to. Okay, nice. Okay, mines aren't, like, I see why you mines this, right? But do you need mines?
I don't know. I think I wanted to turn the fight because of the visor, and I was too focused
Oh,
to
right.
look at the kill feed.
Right. Yeah, because it's a 5v3 right now. Obviously, like, don't mind to the 5v3. But also, like, your team's not a danger anymore. It's not like, again, you're not playing for trades. You're not playing to, again, oh, it's maybe a winnable fight. I need to, like, that's not really happening here. The mines are a little bit of a waste. Mines are great. Again, for like that rotate stage, which is what you're doing right now. Again, only if you need to do that, because you're down one, or maybe it's a 5v5 right now, and you need to punish these characters in order to get value, because otherwise the fight's gonna flip and turn. That's fine to do. You could also do it in the prevent stage. It's a little bit harder to give examples of this. But you could, like, go in other words, you could dive in first or go in early. But yeah, I think this is, again, the idea behind the mindset is fine. It's just that in this case, the fight's already won, so you haven't really got to do it. Okay, kills are good. I would have kept shooting the honor there, to be honest. I would have kept going. You're full HP. You're keeping going here, good. I know you're trying to get a power driver here, it's a bit awkward. Okay, nice. Honestly, that was by far your best fight. By far. We saw pretty much every single stage there, in succession, done to a pretty well extent. I think the best stage there was the absorb stage, where again your micro was really excellent. Again, you were able to identify when they were diving your team. You were able to dodge sleep dart, which is really important. You were able to stay in the fight for a long time and pressure out the Ana for a long time, which is the first time fight that we've seen. That fight that I just saw needs to be done a lot more. Only major issue there was the mines, and you could have maybe forced out recall there a little bit earlier. That's the only things I could have said there. But that fight needs to be done more. Okay, we'll take a look at the Rein Basan game quickly.
All right.
Okay. So you put in your notes that you don't have to play against Sumatra. Just funny.
Yeah.
Because I
I mean,
get that a lot.
I thought I knew, but apparently no. Can you look at the
Second round, yeah. And last one as well.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll see it. Yeah, we got to win the Doom goes March. He's on RAM now. Good. Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay, so what was your previous conception, or rather, what was your previous understanding of playing Rein into Ram?
Basically, it's very simple. When he nemesis, I back up a lot, and that's my end. When it finishes, it's my time to like start to push and start to take angles and like to
Right. Okay.
like.
We'll see how. There's a few things that I want to mention, but I think it's going to be easy to show while we watch throughout. But because what I don't want happening is you can be a big shield bot, but against that comp where there's not much utility that your shield's not going to get any value against like this comp. Like there's no Ana nades, there's no Ash dynamite, there's no range damage that you need to be blocking here. You're only shielding for the sake of a Ramatra. So what I don't want to see is you AFK with shield for 8 seconds during his Nemesis form. And then again, that you'll let their team do other stuff to your team. And again, they actually are running like a fairly dive-ish comp here. Moira's basically a dive hero in herself. Tracer Genji is fairly obvious too. Again, it's the same kind of framework, but we'll see how this pans out. Okay. See. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay, so what do you need to be thinking about now? Okay, here it is, right? So maybe my thing is covering up a little bit. Firstly, what do you expect the enemy team to do generally?
Like to jump my backline and like the Ramato to just pummel me.
Right. So in this matchup right now, would you prefer us matching the enemy Ramatra, or would you like to pin onto the Genji and swing onto him, or the Genji's the obvious one, right? I think there's a third option, which is over here. Yeah, there is. But you might not have seen this, so that's fine. And she's a bit too far away anyways, but here, I would essentially get away from this demon as much as you can, and force this guy out. Because it's a better trade for you, essentially. The nice term that coaches use sometimes is front to backing. In other words, what that basically means is you just match the enemy tank, and you take a frontline matchup against them, before you go to their backline, which is, again, that's just front to backing means. So a bad example of front to backing would be, very simply, Winston jumping into Malga. That's a bad front to back matchup. And here, it's a bad front to back matchup for you. You're just front to backing into a Ramatra, where it's a nice Genji here you can pin onto, and force him out. And it's not even that hard to do. You just hit a swing, he'll dash away, you're fine. But yeah. Okay. I think it might be useful to look at this third person as well. I mean, the Genji looks like he's getting forced out anyways, but yeah. Okay. Maybe not. Okay. And yeah, right, like this is right, like, and I know that like he does in this situation here, and this is the really key example. And people at Capitology have said this since the end of time. But the only way, or the way to live a good dive, is to prevent it from even happening in the first place. In other words, this Genji should not be here, right? If you actually pin onto him, this Genji would not be here in the first place. He'd be over here. You'd be dashed away, and your social would be perfectly fine, right? But yeah, so I think that's like probably the main takeaway that we're gonna get away from this is when Nemesis form activates, am I able to force out their flankers or force out anyone on their team? Can I get away from this matchup here instead of just be a big shield bot? Now, obviously, there's some nuance to that, right? Again, I'm saying that because you're playing against Moira Lifeweaver. Your shield is useless against that comp. They run a Cassidy now as well, so you might want to shield off a Cassidy, but I don't see, we saw here, you saw a Ram, you saw a Genji, and you saw a Moira. Cassidy is not taking a good angle here at all. The Cassidy's are way over here. You can't block him, right? So, again, pin is going to be the main thing here. But yeah, against like Ana Zen, I think shooting there's fine. But yeah, again, in this scenario, you need to be pinning. Sure. Okay. 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 Yeah, you just gets crumpled around. Alright. So very simply, that could have gone a lot different. The Sojin could have lived first to begin with. You could have forced out Genji. And then, after the Nemesis form ends, you can either push the Ram as you did, or look to force out the Cassidy. Very simple again. So yeah. We'll see here. Hopefully we get to see more examples. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here, like, there's nothing. Your team's safe. There's not really a threat here. No one else you can really pin. You can just rule this out. I've got no really complaints. Okay, sure. I'm gonna nitpick here, but was this beat communicated?
No.
No, okay. Because here you're swinging on 200 HP or 300 HP, you know, which is not great because you can get focus fired down here. You're lucky you get the beat here, which again makes this play like a little bit more reasonable. So I thought that might have been communicated in VC or something. But yeah, like I would have just AFK'd here essentially and gotten your armor back up. Generally, like again, it's really important in characters like Mauga, where again Maugas will have to regenerate their armor before they push in. Otherwise, they'll just get melted down. Luckily, again, you've got to beat to carry this over for you. But yeah, small thing. Okay. Okay, and again, what was the targets?
I was thinking like the Nemesis was ending, so it would be a lot more squishy, so I could just match him.
Right, yeah. I think in that case it's fine. Again, you probably just didn't ult track. He's got Annihilation here, because I think in fairness, did he have an Annihilation, or if he didn't have Annihilation, doing this would be a little bit more reasonable. But even then, I'm like, okay, well, if this guy's a Nemesis, is Ramatra in Nemesis form, is he that dangerous? Also, not a Nemesis form, Omnic form, the other form.
No.
No, he's not that dangerous. Conversely, if a Genji is on an angle, i.e. Mr. Genji right over here, is he dangerous? And also, is he easier to force out than a Ramatra and Nemesis?
Yeah.
Or Omnic, sorry. Yeah, he is, right? Of course, you can swing onto a Ramatra playing, in its Omnic form, and he is fairly squishy. You'll guarantee swings onto him. But again, it's the opportunity cost, is how I would think about this. Where I'm completely fine with you swinging onto a Ramatra that's weak or hasn't got his form. But I'm only okay with that if this guy isn't a threat. If this guy isn't a threat. If their Moira isn't a threat as well, to a lesser extent. But yeah, it's just the opportunity cost is what I'm sad about here. So I would like to see you pin here with your beats, force this guy out. Your cast gets a lot of space here. And again, your team are able to push off of that essentially. But yeah. Okay. Okay. Sounds fine. Sure. Nice fight strike. Nice. Ah, fortunate. Fight right there. Nice pin. A really good micro, actually. Okay. Yeah, nice. Yeah, thankfully you'd have to ult there. You have to use 4 ultimates to win that fight, but you've got your Shadow again. So that's actually kind of huge. Okay. Shatter's really the only advantage. I think I've told you this beforehand as well. But I think Shatter's the only advantage you really have over Ramatra, where you can actually front to back him with Shatter. So if you can get up quickly, then I'm okay with that. Okay. Okay. Pin, climb. Yeah, there's not much you can do about that. There's not too much I can say. Again, I'm not gonna be a hindsight in person and say, oh, had you known they had Blade, you could have done this. I think what you did there was fairly reasonable. Not really much else you could have done there. The pin there was fine. Yeah, nothing crazy. This fight you should win though. If you don't, there's gonna be alarm bells ringing. Okay. Sure. Sure, pin. I like the pin. Sure. Oh, the grip. Again, I'm not gonna come. The grip's something that players haven't gotten used to yet because Live Weaver's not been played until the last month or so. I think the shatter there, again, from a mindset perspective, if you ignore the Weaver, it's reasonable. The fact that, again, you can slam an angle, force a Genji or a Moira out, and that allows your team to walk there. I think, again, from a mindset perspective, I'm okay with that. Of course, grip exists, so there's that.
I thought I would catch the Cassidy.
And the Cassidy as well, right?
Even
Yeah.
yeah, even though there is a grip, I could take a pick. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and he shot at the mirror.
Even then, right, your team's still got like a decent angle. Again, your cast is getting destroyed by Genji right now. But from a broader perspective in terms of, again, can we force out this person or this person or this person early on? I think that's fairly reasonable. And we'll see. My only qualm, my only issue is your pathing again. So you see Cass, you see Ram, you see Moira to the right. Is there a big reason as to why you're so intense on going down main here?
Because I was thinking about my shutter, and in my head at this moment, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pin and cancel and shutter, and I should get at least 2.
Right,
That's
okay.
why,
Okay.
because, yeah, thinking about it, I should just go left side and take the bongo maybe
Yeah,
to
so
enable my cast.
it just forces them to make an awkward rotate, or it disrupts their station. So again, in videos, I've essentially mentioned this idea as out-rotating, where you essentially move in accordance to where their dive characters are. In this case, you out-rotate the Genji, or if the Genji wants to stay here, he needs to move around you. And then you can like play the point, you can force point, and then you can shatter anyone on point. That becomes quite nice. But yeah, I think going left side here, again, helping out your Cassidy and then forcing out the Genji is really important. Of course, I think in principle, I'm okay with this. Okay. Okay. Playing forward trade's fine. Sure, play to live. Okay. 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 My only concern here is low HP, right? So, what's going on behind your team right now?
I don't know.
Yeah,
The Genji. Yeah.
the Genji, right? So you can see the three people in front of you, and the implication is that Genji's behind, right? So what are you currently doing, or what should you be doing right now? What's the word I'm looking for?
Zone?
Yes, Zono, exactly, right? Zono with these 3 targets here. Should you get low HP when you zone?
No.
No.
I should be shielding.
Yeah, you're 1200 HP. Shield, right? You're fine. So I was actually looking at the Genji rather than your HP pool here. But that needs to be shielded off, you know? Like you can't die for this. Because the only point of you doing this is just to zone the backline, right? Make the Cass, Weaver, Moira look at you. That's it, really. And then your team can clear a Genji. If you're getting down to 18 HP, that's very scary. And they're dying. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. So I guess the question becomes, why did you ignore the Cassidy? Your left side.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I don't know.
Right, because this...
I think I was thinking about like saving my shield. Not but yeah, I didn't realize that that was the moment I should use it at the most. Like, yeah.
Right, because is there a trigger for you to actually go? Wait, well, there's 2 questions there, right? So, what were you saving your shield for?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking I have cover. I shouldn't be shielding for nothing. I didn't think like the Cassidy would just roll in and right click me. I thought I had my like team to cover me and put pressure on him. So
So it's like, so this is probably a mindset, or yeah, it's probably a mindset issue in terms of what you should be thinking and what the Cassidy should be thinking. If I'm this Cassidy right now, I do not want you to stabilize. If you stabilize, we lose this fight. Because then you just you be you're just a big rectangle man. You push forward. Myra Martra's dead. Again, he's gonna die here too, and then we just lose the fight. Like if you're Cassidy, you need to get this kill onto the Rein. You need to like play really really fast. So that's probably the Cassie's mindset that you're probably not accounting for. The second thing to that is also how do I say it? Oh yeah, the triggers here to go in, right? Where there's no trigger for you to go onto the caster here. You're low HP. The cast you haven't got. I think you already use pin here. Yeah, you already use pin. It's just not a trigger to go on casting, and he's not even that split from his weaver anyways. Yeah, his weaver can still see him. There's not like a positional trigger. There's nothing here essentially. There's no numbers trigger here as well. Your teammates are also zoning Genji, which again you should be aware of right now. Because you can just again by object permanence, you should be able to tell that hey, I can see 3 people here. Genji's still alive, so my team's probably clearing a Genji. That's all that needs to happen right now. If anything, the only reason I should see you dropping down your shield is to swing onto Genji, or to find a way to kill this Genji. It's the only possible, reasonable explanation I should see you drop your shield. And even then, I still don't think it's worth it. Just trust your team to clear a Genji. But yeah, you getting traded here is a mindset issue, where you're just not aware of A, what you should be doing, and B, what your team's doing. Which is really unfortunate here. Had you stayed alive, you probably, and had you played this properly, you're probably, what, 400 HP here? Probably 500 HP had you played this properly, with like 400 shield. And then after your teammates have cleared Genji, now is the time to push the Cassidy. So yeah, the triggers that are being kind of ignored here. That's kind of, yeah, it's kind of your fault for losing that fight there, sadly. Okay. We'll watch. I mean, this is probably last finals point now. It's gonna get scuffed. Okay. And you're down your Lucio. You have to touch point. It becomes really rough. You can't prevent the Genji. Right. You get front to back. Yeah, there's not really much you can do. You got no pin. Yeah, I'm not gonna cry about this fight. You needed to touch. But yeah, it's really the last fight where you died. It becomes again why you can have lost this point. It's really unfortunate too. I'm looking at your ult economy too. You've got Orbital Ray, you're 20 off Ray, 20 off OC, 10 off beats. Like that fight, if you live there, that fight is so winnable. You can snowball that into another fight win, and then you just win. You win this game just by that one fight.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how harsh ranked can be. But yeah. Okay. All right, we'll do a quick summary here at the end, but I think we know the key things to work on. So, we'll just walk here. Okay, we'll say like I guess the big thing here is probably the triggers. I think it applies to both characters, which is why I'm gonna put it as the first point. Both Ryan and Bull. So on Bull specifically, again, it's like outplaying Sleep Dart, which sometimes you did actually do. I just need to see it more consistently done. I think the last fight that we saw there was really good, a really good case of it. Again, cover, distance, and then you can abuse that person as well. So you can see the person to see what's the honor looking at, and then again on Ryan, just zoning or sponging versus running it down. And then second thing we'll say is we'll say like timings. We'll say this. We'll say like early fights. Early fight mindset. So again on Ryan, I was looking to avoid pin onto targets that aren't ram during form. One thing you can also do here as well that I didn't mention is play distance. In other words, make it hard and expensive and dangerous. I'll say risky for the ram to brawl you. So in other words, you could have actually played. So when you had point control, you could have actually played a little bit closer on point, like around here, and it just becomes really laborious for the enemy Ramattra to come and reach you. And in the meantime, if the Ramattra eventually walks onto you, guess what? You can just pin over here, go into the Cassidy. You can pin over here, maybe go into the Moira. You can avoid him entirely. And again, you're almost playing like a dive hero almost. That's kind of what I meant by that. And then
Okay.
on on ball, early, like mindset, soft gauges, forcing out front line while still having option to reach for backline, which is kind of something that we saw on the second fight, by Coast, as well as what fight was that? Oh yeah, when you were marking or overextending on the tracer, extending on
Yeah.
Again, this also links into the first point too, in terms of knowing when, like I say, soft engages here, like knowing when to hard commit afterwards. But yeah, I think really that last fight there was really the perfect case of it, where you rolled on the tracer, you kind of forced her out. Again, you could have done it a little bit better. But you had the option to go backline, which is the really important thing. You could switch playstyles really, really easily because of where you were placing yourself. And I think that again, that last fight that we looked at on ball was a really good case of it. And again, there were multiple fights where you could have done that. I think again, second fight by the coast side, you sort of instantly went onto backline before your team could swing, and then you didn't force out their soldier, you didn't force out their tracer, you didn't force out their Winston really, and they just cleared you and then pushed in afterwards. So again, a soft engagement on their front line would have been quite nice instead of hard engaging into an Ana who's got sleep dart. And then last thing here, we'll just say, just easy micro. So ball sets up for next fight. Sets up. Well, sets up in between fights, I'll say. Between fights. And then Ryan. Just keep my life for Shatter. Nothing crazy. Your mind mark was actually pretty good. But yeah, those are the three key things. Any questions or queries?
No.
Great, good to hear. As always, of course, if you do think of anything, you do feel free to ask me. It will take quite a long time, like a week probably, to get the session uploaded because I've got a back catalog that I need to catch up on. But I will link it to you once I've finished uploading the session, and you can watch it back at your spare pace.